All right, guys, welcome back to the Green Zone. This is episode 26, week 6 of the 2019 NFL season. You guys should know how this breaks down already, but I'll give you one last chance to get this memorized, damn it. First off, we're going to go with our head-to-head pick'ems. I'll give you the straight-up winners in each game/action this week. Then we're going to do our fantasy advice, daily fantasy, weekly fantasy. It's all going to help you. And then we'll get into our betting advice. Stay tuned at the very end. I'll go over last week's week 5 matchups and action from last week. And also I was at the Monday Night Football game between the 49ers and the Browns, so a special little rendition/breakdown of that as well. So without any further ado, guys, as we like to say here on the Green Zone, let's kick it off. All right, first up, guys, we got the Panthers at the Buccaneers. This is going to be in Tampa. This game's interesting because earlier on the season, these teams have already played. The Buccaneers went to Carolina and beat the Panthers in a low-scoring affair. Seems that neither team really had their identity at that point. Neither team was really that good, to be plain and simple. But now things have kind of changed. Week 6, teams are starting to figure themselves out and who they are. Jameis Winston, the Buccaneers, starting to roll a little bit. They're still inconsistent. They get the division loss last week in New Orleans, but first off, they're on the road. That's a good New Orleans team, and they actually made it a game. They only lost by a touchdown there. Panthers, on the other hand, they've got their defense rolling, and that's the best thing going, as well as Christian McCaffrey for them right now. McCaffrey's playing like an MVP candidate of the league. He is amazing. The Panthers now have a little bit of quarterback controversy, right? Kyle Allen is winning. He's making some plays where he has some plays where he looks awesome and he's making plays. He has other plays where he looks inconsistent and maybe like he is a struggling backup type quarterback. I like him so far. They're winning with him, so I say obviously stick with him, and the Panthers are going to, but they're going to rely heavily on that defense and Christian McCaffrey, and I think the Panthers have a better handle on who they are than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Buccaneers were not able to stop Michael Thomas. They kind of got a hold of Alvin Kamara, but this week they're not going to be able to stop Christian McCaffrey. I think he goes off big against the Buccaneers, and I think the Buccaneers come up with a W there, and Kyle Allen will be eating the W's instead of Jameis Winston in that division matchup. Next, we got the Redskins at the Dolphins, guys. Best game of the week, right? This is a game where if both teams could lose, they would. Don't be surprised if this ends in a 0-0 tie. In all seriousness, guys, I don't really know who to pick. I'm going to say go with the Redskins in this one only because they have a little bit more to play for, or at least the coach does. The Dolphins might legitimately be trying to tank the season away. Meanwhile, the Redskins just fired their head coach and have hired an interim coach who probably wants to prove that he can coach in the NFL. So he's got a reason to win this game. So I'm going to go ahead and say that the Washington Redskins and Callahan get it done there on the road in Miami. Sorry, Dolphins fans, you are not going to see that W this year. All right, next we got the Saints and the Jaguars, guys. I'm going to say that the Saints go marching on to the beat of the Teddy Bridgewater chant as that gets going again, and the Saints go to 4-0 with Teddy Bridgewater as their starter. Like I've said before, guys, every win they get with Bridgewater under center is money in the bank. And I think they go on the road and they do it again against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are playing better football, but it's just not good enough, right? Gardner Minshew's good, but maybe not good enough. Or maybe he just doesn't have the talent around him. The bottom line is the Jaguars cannot finish the game. The Saints can. Teddy Bridgewater finally figured out Michael Thomas can't be guarded. That is his That is his Twitter handle. Can't be guarded. That's right, and that's very apt for him, guys. I'm going to say that the Saints go marching on in Jacksonville. We've got the Bengals at the Ravens, guys. Last time these teams matched up, Lamar Jackson went crazy. However, in Lamar Jackson's first 3 games, he has thrown 0 interceptions, and in his last 2 games, he has thrown 5 interceptions. His yardage per game has gone down every single game. I don't think that matters against the Cincinnati Bengals in a division game. The Ravens are still in first place in that division. I think they want to stay atop. I think they have a bounce-back week. I know and realize that they won last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers, but it was ugly. However, it's a divisional game. A W is a W. I think the Ravens continue their divisional success. My Ravens expert brother-in-law, Corey, has told me that whenever the Ravens have a divisional win, the very following week they lose when they play within division back-to-back. I'm going to say that they break that trend this week. The Bungles, they're just not good. They're letting up chunk plays every single game. They've got a terrible defensive line that allows that to happen. As the quarterback sits back there, he can scam downfield and see, he can scan downfield and see exactly what it is that he wants to do. I think that continues this week. Expect something big from the Ravens and Lamar Jackson after a couple lower offensive output type games. Then we got the Seahawks at the Browns, guys. Believe it or not, I think this game is more interesting than people think. The Seahawks are going on the road. They have to play in Cleveland. It's no secret that the Seahawks play better at home with the 12th man, who should legitimately be the architect of that building, but we'll get into that at another time. The Browns play better at home. The bottom line is it was rough for the Browns coming into San Francisco last week, or Levi's Stadium there in Santa Clara. They could not get anything going. The reason being the Browns have to rely on Nick Chubb in that run game. Everything revolves around that run game. Having a tough time today, guys. Everything revolves around that ground game for the Cleveland Browns. Nick Chubb is a beast. I expect him to get 20-plus touches this week. If he gets 20-plus touches and Baker Mayfield throws the ball around 30 times, rather than Chubb getting the ball 10 times and Baker Mayfield throwing the ball 40 times, that's a better outlook for the Browns' chances to win that game. Feed Chubb, feed him often, then work the play action off of that effective run game. Give Baker Mayfield some time behind a makeshift offensive line that he's got with a lot of injuries this year, and I think you'll be all right, Cleveland. However, Seattle's a tough team to try to figure this out against. Russell Wilson's playing better than he's probably played. I mean, I seem to say this about Russell Wilson every single year. He seems to just get better and better and better. He continues to look phenomenal this year. So, I like the Seahawks, but the Browns keeping it close. This can go either way, really. I'm just going to go with the team that I think's better, and that's the Seahawks. That's come back to bite me a few times this year, guys. Don't forget that a lot of teams are 2-3. A lot of teams are right in the middle. Some really surprising things happening this year. All right, next we got the Eagles at the Vikings, guys. These are two teams that I feel like are on the same playing level, same tier. They show flashes of being really good. They show flashes of being well balanced on both the offensive and defensive side. And sometimes they'll just come out in an important game and they'll lay an egg. I think the Eagles have a little bit more momentum going for them than the Vikings do. I understand the Vikings are coming off of a big win last week. Kirk Cousins got bitched out by both of his receivers. He was asked to apologize by Adam Thielen himself to Adam Thielen, of course. And he acquiesced, I should say. Kind of makes him a bitch in my book. But look, they were better for it. That connection's going and going strong. Stephon Diggs still has yet to get into the action. Dalvin Cook is a monster. The Vikings do have a good defense. I just don't trust Kirk Cousins. I can no longer trust the guy. I trust Carson Wentz more than I do Cousins. I think he's a better quarterback, or he will be in the long run. And I think that Eagles defense is good as well. I think the Eagles go on the road and get it done in Minnesota. Next, we got the Texans at the Chiefs, guys. Expect this one to be a shootout. If Mahomes' ankle is fine, which he says it is, it's a direct quote, my ankle is fine, I think the Chiefs will be all right. I think that Deshaun Watson and the Texans are good too. So I expect this to be a sort of shootout there. I like the Chiefs coming out on top, but don't be surprised if the Texans pull off something. It would have been better for the Texans if the Colts would have lost last week, or the Chiefs would have won. Because then the Chiefs maybe start feeling real good and they kind of overlook the Texans. I think they're going to be hungry. I think they're going to be angry this week. So, and there's talk of Tyreek Hill coming back, making his first start since the injury. And if that happens, that's going to be tough for the Texans secondary. I like the Chiefs in that one. All right, guys, next we got the Falcons at the Cardinals, the Battle of the Birds. I like the Falcons going into Arizona and beating the Cardinals. It feels like these teams match up every other year, and there's a shootout, right? Kind of an unexpected shootout, so that makes it an expected shootout for me this year. I like the Falcons beating the Cardinals in Arizona. I still like Kyler Murray playing well. That Falcons defense is quickly becoming the opposing quarterback's best friend, so expect big things from Murray this week, but also bigger things from Matt Ryan, who seems to be the only player on his team playing well. He's thrown for over 300 yards for 6 games in a row now, dating back to last year. He seems to be the only one playing well this year, however. So I think that the Falcons are going to get Julio Jones reignited and re-involved in this offense. It won't just be the Calvin Ridley / Austin Hooper show. I think Matt Ryan has a focus to get at Julio Jones, and I think the Falcons win in Arizona. All right, guys, 49ers at Rams. I got to give the 49ers credit. I have doubted them all season. They're playing much better than I thought they would coming into the season. I projected them at 7-9, 8-8, as most people did. Anyone telling you otherwise is a liar. I saw one ranking by an NFL expert saying that they would be 7th best team in the NFL this year, and he stands strong next to that last week, saying that they could possibly make it to the Super Bowl. Look, here's the deal. I love my Niners. They're playing well. Every time I pick against them, they prove me wrong, and it's great. I feel great about it, right? I love it. Keep doing it. Problem here is they're now missing Joe Staley, their starting left tackle. Mike McGlinchey, their starting right tackle. Kyle Juszczyk, their starting fullback, which they use their fullback more than any other team in the league. I think it's just too much blocking that they're going to end up missing in this one, guys. So Niner fans, the faithful, don't kill me on this one. Or maybe you should be happy because I'm going to pick against the Niners again. The Los Angeles Rams, on the other hand, they have an injury or kind of lingering injury to Todd Gurley there, but at the same time, their backs are against the wall. They cannot lose this game. If they lose this game, they've got 3 losses on the season, including 2 divisional losses, 1 to the Niners, 1 to the Seahawks. Those are the teams that will be on top if they lose. Those are the teams that are on top right now. Niners first, Seahawks second. With a Rams team who was just in the Super Bowl last year, out for revenge, out to prove that they needed to be, or that they deserved to be there, coming off of, or backs against the wall, coming off of a big loss to the Seattle Seahawks on national television in the primetime game at Thursday night, comparatively to the Niners, who have a ton of injuries and important injuries at that, I just don't see how the Niners get it done. Look, they've surprised me all year, so if they do get it done, that's amazing. And keep in mind, folks, if they get it done and they go to 5-0, they become a Super Bowl favorite in a lot of people's minds, okay? Favorite to make it there, not to go and win. But I'm going to say that the Rams win this game. I don't think it's the end of the world for the 49ers. A 4-1 start is fine. You get bounced back the next week when you go against the Washington Redskins. But as of this week, I expect the Rams to take out the 49ers with their backs against the wall. Kind of like a cornered Wolverine there in Los Angeles. Not to mention they're on the road. The 49ers, that is. A lot of things stacked against them this week. All right, guys, we got the Titans at the Broncos. The Titans do have a good defense, and that's not what's holding them back. The problem is they got a kicker in Cairo Santos who has missed 4 field goals, a mediocre to decent quarterback in Marcus Mariota, good running game in Derrick Henry, who seems to score and score often, but at the same time he's averaging less than 4 yards per carry. They don't have that many weapons for Mariota to throw to. They rely on that defense and good coaching. That'll get you far this year, but I don't know if it'll get you far enough. Now, the Broncos, on the other hand, have been a dumpster fire all year. They managed to scratch out a win against the Los Angeles Chargers last week. The NFL's, most inconsistent team in the world. Nobody can predict the Chargers. I'm going to say the Titans go on the road and win in Denver. I have a lot of road teams winning this week, guys, so let's hope that it pans out just like it did a couple weeks ago when only 3 home teams won in week 4. All right, guys, we got the Cowboys at the Jets. Look, Sam Darnold's back, and he couldn't have come sooner. I think I called their quarterback last week, who has already been cut from the team, so excuse me for not knowing his name, Luke McCown. I think I called him that last week on the podcast, so apologies there. He's out. He's already been cut. He was brought in for that week. Now he's out. Sam Darnold's back. They're still going to lose. The Cowboys are a better team than the Jets, hands down. The Jets have a good defense. The problem is they're on the field all freaking game, and that's always going to take its toll. That's always going to result in points being put on the board eventually. So kudos to you, Jets defense, for hanging in as long as you do. Hopefully Sam Darnold can help you out because the Jets are in trouble until he comes back. Now that he's back, they're still not that great of a team, but they're better off with Darnold than they are with anybody else that they've got, any other option that they've got there. Cowboys are playing okay. Their defense let them down last week against the Packers. They had some timely, terrible turnovers there. Those 2 interceptions and 11 penalties at timely times, at costly times, cost them the game last week against the Packers. They bounced back big against the Jets. Steelers at Chargers, guys. Just got done talking trash about the Chargers. They're the most inconsistent team in the NFL. They always have been or have been for a long time. But they're going to win this week against the Steelers. The Steelers are playing their 3rd-string quarterback. Mason Rudolph will not play. Devin I don't know, Hudgley or something like that is their starter. He's not going to get it done against the Chargers. So expect the Chargers to go on the road there and get a win. And then last, guys, we got the Lions and Packers. I'm going with the home team in this one. I do think this will be a well-fought game. The Lions coming off of a bye. They planned this game out, I'm sure well. They're coached well, and I think they'll do all right. I just think ultimately Aaron Rodgers and the Packers are playing too well right now. Devontae Freeman is not there. Jamal Williams is not there. So if the Lions want to get it done, this is the week. However, Aaron Jones is a stud. I said it about week 2 or 3 on the podcast that Aaron Jones is the better running back between him and Jamal Williams, but their coach, Flynn, has shown a little bit of history of not knowing who to choose or not being able to scout running back talent. He was in Tennessee for a while, and he wouldn't give the reins to Derrick Henry, who seems to score a touchdown every week in Tennessee. So I'm not sure he really knows running back talent. He finally had to give the reins to Aaron Jones, and it panned out very, very well for him. So I like the Packers continuing to ride the hot hand of Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones in winning against the Lions this week. All right, guys, that is it for the head-to-head pick'ems. Next, we have our fantasy advice, guys. Last week in fantasy, I gave you 9 top 10 players. That's 3 players for every position: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and defense. So I believe if my math is correct, carry the 2. Yes, that's 9 out of 15. Pretty good, and that includes 2 number 1s, all right? 7-7 in our pick'ems last week. So that's 2 weeks in a row where we've gone 500. That is okay. That is very average, and that's not what we're looking for here. So I will get better and win more this week. All right, guys, for fantasy, quarterbacks, let's rip them off. Here we go. First, I like Deshaun Watson. I've already spoken of him a little bit. I think that game has the potential to be a blowout between the Houston Texans and the Chiefs. I also don't like games that are very highly expected to be shootouts. A lot of times they end up being duds due to, penalties and other things that can be used to slow games down in teams. But we're not going conspiracy this week, guys. I'm going to expect a shootout between Deshaun Watson and his Texans and Pat Mahomes and his Chiefs. And I like Deshaun Watson getting a lot of points in that matchup. I think that the Texans defense is a little bit better than the Chiefs. The Chiefs' weakness has always been their defense. Everybody knows that. If you're on planet Earth, you get that. They have a great offense, an okay to subpar defense, right? So if you're going to get the Chiefs, you're going to have to outscore them. I think with Deshaun Watson being fully healthy and Mahomes having a hobbled ankle, I think that the Texans have potential to outscore the Chiefs there. Now, I know I said the Chiefs win in the head-to-head pick'ems earlier. I still like the Chiefs as the better team, but Deshaun Watson's definitely going to put up some points. Last week, Deshaun Watson threw for over 400 yards, 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. The dude is rolling right now. He becomes just the 5th quarterback to do that. He threw 28 for 33 as well, with a perfect QBR rating. So I like him again this week against a weaker defense. Next, we got Kyler Murray or Matt Ryan. Guys, I think this will actually be the shootout game of the week. Kyler Murray or Matt Ryan, not both. One of them for yourself, all right? And you can't start both anyways, but what I mean is do not pick a bunch of players from this one game. If it turns into a dud, then you've saddled yourself with a bunch of players from one game, and that's never good, all right? So pick one of those guys. I think they both have the potential to go off here, as neither defense is good at all. And then finally, guys, we got Russell Wilson. As I mentioned earlier, Russell Wilson is playing phenomenally. Even if the Browns play well, I think Wilson still gets his. In standard points, the way they're given out in fantasy for Yahoo, you get more points for a rushing touchdown than you do for a passing touchdown. So these quarterbacks, Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, they all have potential to not only throw the ball in, but run the ball in as well. And Matt Ryan will give you an occasional scramble TD every now and again too. So those guys are all going in great matchups. Take any one of them and feel great about it. Next, we got running backs, guys. And my top pick in daily fantasy is Christian McCaffrey. There is no chance that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will be able to stop Christian McCaffrey. Not with the way he's rolling, not with the way he's gelled with Kyle Allen. I like him a lot this week. Spend the money on him in daily fantasy. Then we've got Nick Chubb, guys. Nick Chubb is the key ingredient for the Cleveland Browns. I think they finally figured that out. They were not able to get him going in San Francisco. They will get him going this week against Seattle. Nick Chubb. pick him up. And then, guys, Alvin Kamara, I know he's been kind of quiet. A lot of you probably spent your second or third pick on him. It probably went Saquon, Kamara, or Christian McCaffrey, and then Kamara at third, or Zeke Elliott maybe somewhere in there. But you spent a top 5 draft pick on Alvin Kamara. I know I did. He hasn't panned out for you quite yet. He's going to have a big week this week. I think he wants to prove to the world that he can play as well as Christian, all-purpose back Christian McCaffrey can. So they're very similar type backs. And now Kamara gets to go against that Jaguars defense that McCaffrey just torched last week. So the Jaguars aren't going to stop any problems that they just had last week in that short of time against a great back like Kamara. So big game for Kamara. All right, guys, wide receivers, I like Julio Jones. I told you before, I think the Falcons are going to make it a point to get him the ball. It's been too quiet from the Julio Jones corner this week or this year. So expect him to be involved often there in Atlanta. Tyreek Hill, if he goes. If Tyreek Hill goes, I really expect him to make a statement to the rest of the world. Look, this is a guy that he's got a bit of an ego, right? So if he's going to be out all season or for the last 4 or 5 games and now he's back, I think he's going to want to make his mark. The bottom line is the guy's so freaking fast he can't be stopped. There's not a cornerback in this league that can guard Tyreek Hill if he's given the time, and he doesn't need much of it. So I like Tyreek Hill. DeAndre Hopkins. I said this game has the potential to be a blowout, guys, and if it does, DeAndre Hopkins is a guy that I want on my lineup. Plain and simple. Tight ends. Will Disley. Tight ends are hard to pick this year, guys. There's about 3 or 4 good ones, and then there's a massive drop-off. Those of you who drafted O.J. Howard, you'll understand that very much. Will Disley for the Seattle Seahawks. I think he gets a touchdown. I think he gets in there. Austin Hooper has been one of the only reliable tight ends in the league this year. And then finally, Travis Kelce, guys. If Tyreek Hill's back, it's going to be the Tyreek Hill, Mahomes, Kelce show like usual. Right. And then defenses, guys. Chargers have a great matchup with the third-string quarterback going there in Pittsburgh. The Rams have a great matchup with the Niners having as many injuries as they do. Even if it's a close game, I don't expect that to be a high-scoring affair for the Niners and Rams. There's not going to be much blocking for Jimmy G, so expect a lot of sacks for the Rams and Aaron Donald to be disrupting the Niners passing game all day long. And then finally, guys, Tennessee. Like I said, Tennessee Titans, even when they're not winning, they're holding their opponents to, 19 or 20 points or less. So I like the Titans in that one. All right, guys, that is it for fantasy. By the way, fantasy has been going best out of all things this year so far. I think that remains true this week. I like the matchups. I like the picks. All right, for the love of money, goodness gracious, let's get our betting advice on, right? First look, guys, these are my first look options, the ones that I go through and they jump out off the page at me right away. First look, we got the Eagles +3. I already told you I think the Eagles can win straight up in this game. They got a great matchup. I just don't trust the Vikings. I don't trust Kirk Cousins anytime he goes up against a good defense. Give me the Eagles +3 to beat Kirk Cousins and the Vikings. Next, we got the Saints +2.5. I'm not really sure. I may be missing something on this. Maybe the Saints haven't gone on the road and beaten the Jaguars ever or something like that. But Teddy Bridgewater's 3-0. The Saints are rolling. Sean Payton has great game plans and schemes. I don't see how they lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars and young Gardner Minshew there, who is going to have to go against the Saints defense, who is steadily getting better game by game. They were weak at the pass defense, but good at the rush defense, and now they're playing good at both. That's going to be a tough matchup for Minshew. I think the Jaguars play well, but I think the Saints win. And if you're going to give me points on top of that, I'll take them. All right. Then we've got that could be a trap game, though. I understand that. All right, guys. Then we got Houston +4.5. Look, the Chiefs have been beating teams, but not by a lot this year. Last year, they were blowing teams out left and right. This year, they've had a handful of close games. The Texans are good. They're not bad by any stretch of the imagination. They're tied for first place with the Colts there. So give me the Texans +4.5. All right. Oh, and last on first look, we got Rams -3, guys. I hate to do it to you again, Niners, but hey, maybe you should be grateful for it. Every time I bet against you, you've proven me wrong, and you've won. I just don't see how the Niners can get it done this week. I already explained that. So the Rams are only -3. If they win, I think they win by more than 3. If you're a Niner fan and the Niners keep this game close, guys, you got to hold on to the small positives. You're 4-1. You kept the game close against division rivals. Last year's Super Bowl appearing Rams without half of your offensive line, you got to look at the pros in this. Don't hang your head, faithful. We'll be all right. Second take, all right? Second take. That means I went through a second time to find these ones, but I still like them. All right, the Falcons -2.5. The Arizona Cardinals aren't good. Did we forget? Their defense is atrocious. They don't have Patrick Peterson. They don't have anybody that's good on that defense besides Chandler Jones. So, Falcons are not playing well either. They're really bad. Their defense is horrible. And as a Florida Gator fan, they've got too many Florida Gator alumni on that defense to be that bad. But Matt Ryan is playing well. I think Matt Ryan's playing better than Kyler Murray. Now, I understand, don't get me wrong, Kyler Murray's playing better than people think. Despite the low touchdown floor for him, and the fact that he hasn't thrown that many touchdowns, his yardage is very good. His completion percentage isn't that bad either. He can also scramble, and we all know the athleticism there as well. I still like the Falcons to win. 2.5 isn't a lot. I understand they're on the road, but give me the Falcons minus the 2.5. Next, we got the Titans plus 1.5, guys. I like the Titans defense. They're getting 1.5 points. They got a good matchup. It's that simple, guys. Give me the Titans plus 1.5. And then the Chargers -7. Yes, the Chargers -7. Yes, they're inconsistent. Yes, they just lost to the Denver Broncos. But they're playing a team that, plain and frank, they're just not that good, right? The Steelers have their third-string quarterback playing. If they lose by less than 7, that's a great game for the Steelers. So give me the Chargers and Rivers to win by more than 7 points. And then finally, third glance, guys. These sometimes turn into jokes, some things I like to have fun with, but sometimes we get a W in there. We're going to go with, lost my place. The over in the Falcons-Cardinals game. I did tell you I thought that game has potential to be the offensive shootout of the week. The over's sitting at 52, which is very high. If you guys haven't noticed, all the overs, all the scoring is down this year comparatively to last year. But give me the over at 52 in the Cardinals-Falcons game. And then Miami. We're betting on Miami, baby. Woo! Miami plus 3.5. Yes, those words just came out of my mouth. Look, Josh Rosen isn't terrible. The Dolphins looked all right with him as the starter in their last game before the bye. They've now had a bye to prepare for this. I think the Redskins win this game because I think it matters more to the Redskins than their coach. Like I said, the Dolphins are probably trying to tank at this point. Neither team wants to win this game, but I think Rosen wants to prove himself as a starting caliber type quarterback in the NFL. He's been given that opportunity. The Dolphins may pull off a win here. They're getting 3.5. So, give me the team that's getting 3.5 points. All right, guys, that is it for the betting segment. Good luck to you guys. Place your bets intelligently. Don't go crazy. And as always, be responsible. All right, next, guys, we have last week's news. That means we're going to finally go into the last segment here where I talk about Week 5 action and break some things down. At the top of the list, we have Jay Gruden is fired from the Redskins. Look, the Redskins have all kinds of problems, but I don't think Jay Gruden is their main problem, right? I mean, they have talent and personnel issues across the board. Jordan Reed, a draft pick that's supposed to be a stud out of Florida there, is playing at tight end. He's injured every single week. They've got another tight end opposite him that's injured. They've got injuries to Darian Geis, who's supposed to be their starting running back. I mean, they've made some bad draft picks as well. Going out and picking up Case Keenum and expecting him to be your savior after Alex Smith went down. Yeah, by the way, they were in first place when Alex Smith went down. It's stupid. I mean, it's insane. They always tend to go for these mediocre middle-type tier quarterbacks, which I broke down last week, explaining that that's probably the one out of the 3 categories you don't want your quarterback to be in this year. I saw the writing on the wall before the season started for the Redskins that they weren't going to be very good. So to kind of pin it all on Jay Gruden, I think it's just as much their GM's fault as anyone else's. I think they're using Gruden as a scapegoat there. So that is unfortunate. Side note, every time a Gruden has been cut in lieu of a Callahan, that team under the management of Callahan has gone on to win the Super Bowl. So Redskins are going to win the Super Bowl. Next we got Patriots at the Redskins. That brings us right into that game. How easy is the Pats schedule? Please. I haven't seen them have one tough game except for against the Buffalo Bills, and that's a newly young, rising team, and Josh Allen got hurt in that game when it was still really, really close. I don't understand. I thought that the way that the NFL works is the teams that do really well have a tougher schedule the following year. It seems like after the Pats win a Super Bowl, the following year their schedule is really easy, especially out of the gates, just in case they need to massage away that Super Bowl hangover, right? When the Pats are in the red zone, they're probably more than likely going to Julian Edelman, and he's more than likely running the jerk route, and it's called that because the route makes you look like a jerk. It's a little, step in, you go this way, and then you loop around and you come that way, right? And if you can't see it or you don't know it, then go look it up on YouTube. The bottom line is, guys, it's a quick route. It's a route that needs to be run by somebody who runs clean, crisp routes and is quick, not necessarily fast, but has lateral quick movement. Julian Edelman has that. So if you're a defense and you're going against the Patriots and you're in the red zone, you're no longer looking at Gronkowski, you're looking for Julian Edelman. Find him, guard him, please, for God's sake, please guard Julian Edelman near the red zone. It's getting so redundant to watch happen over and over and over. The only chink in the Pats' armor is their offensive line. They've had some injuries. They've had some turnover. If you're going to get to the Pats, you're going to do it by getting to Brady. And more than likely, you're going to do it through coverage sacks. If you blitz him, he's too smart. He'll pre-snap read that. He'll get the ball off too quick. You have to drop about 7 or 8 back in coverage and come at him with 3, maybe just 4. Or 4, maybe just 3. And that's what the Redskins did last week, and it had a little bit of success. Other teams need to learn from that. All right, guys, then we got the Packers at the Cowboys. Aaron Jones was a beast. I have him on my fantasy team. He got me over 50 points in that standard PPR format. That's insane. I said at the beginning of the year that he was the better of the backs. It took Flynn 5 weeks to figure it out, and he really didn't figure it out. He kind of got that smart choice by default there. Like I mentioned before, he had that issue with Derrick Henry early in his career. Aaron Rodgers had a great game. He's playing really well as of late. The Cowboys, and I mentioned this earlier, had 11 penalties and 2 timely turnovers. That was the difference. The Colts at the Chiefs. Obviously, the biggest story there is Mahomes' ankle. He says it's okay. He's going to go. The kid's tough. And that's great, but if he wasn't moving the same at the end of that game. So let's hope that it's fully healed and he's ready to go. I'm not a Chiefs fan, but I don't want to see the Chiefs lose because of injury. That's not a reason why you want to see a good team like that taken down. Justin Houston made what was probably the biggest play of the game with 5 minutes left, making the stop on 4th down. Thought that was a little bit poetic justice there. However, I mean, if it wasn't... Look, the Chiefs were shopping Houston. That's why it's a little bit of poetic justice. If he didn't come back because he wanted more money, that's a little bit of a different story. But I thought that was kind of cute there. Wanted to mention that. The Chiefs have a weakness, and it's their defense. It always has been. Anybody with 2 eyes can see that. If you're going to beat the Chiefs, you're going to outscore them. You also can shut them down a little bit by understanding that Pat Mahomes is going to need time in order to make those deep throws. He doesn't need much time, and he can also outmaneuver your defensive line. So you have to have defensive linemen who can get in there on their own. You can't afford a guy that's supposed to be back in coverage to blitz. You've got your front 4 have to get in on their own, and they've got to be athletic enough to make the plays. That Grover guy, his first name is Grover, and Justin Houston for the Colts, they made problems for Mahomes all day. That's how you're going to beat the Chiefs. And then you got to put points on the board, plain and simple, because he's still going to make those miraculous throws and those big plays. It was only his ankle that slowed him down last week. So good on you, Colts, for getting that win. It's a big win for you. It ties you in first place with the Texans. Don't expect that same type of performance from the Chiefs rest of the league. Warning given. All right, guys, we got the Falcons at the Texans. Will Fuller had over 50 points in fantasy. A few guys who put up a 50-burger in fantasy. Will Fuller was one of them. He has been clicking with Deshaun Watson all year. When he's healthy and the two of them are connecting and Fuller's on the field, it's fun to watch. I mean, the guy just streaks down the field, and Watson's got a cannon of an arm. The Falcons' defense is your fantasy player's best friend, especially for the QB. Watson threw 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and joins Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Big Ben, and Peyton Manning. I mean, the only one on there that's arguably not a Hall of Famer is maybe Big Ben. And like I said, arguably, you can argue that he is, that he isn't, whatever. The rest are. That's good company to be with there. He was 28 for 33 with over 400 passing yards and 5 touchdowns. That's pretty good, man. Props to Deshaun Watson, who is rolling right now. Next, we got the Buccaneers at the Saints last week. The Buccaneers hung in there, but ultimately couldn't get it done. And I told you that was coming. Teddy Bridgewater finally discovered Michael Thomas. Good on you, Teddy, for discovering him. A little late, in my opinion. I would have been throwing the ball to that guy all day, but you now get it. The man was a beast. He catches everything in his area, anything in near and around him. The Saints have gone 3-0 with Teddy starting. And then we jump right into the Panthers and the Jaguars last week. Christian McCaffrey can't be stopped. Here's the thing about that. I love how everybody acts like they totally knew Christian McCaffrey was going to be a stud running back. However, I remember that when I was begging and pleading for the 49ers to draft him, which their argument against that was, no, we have too high of a draft pick to pick Christian McCaffrey. He's more like a 13 to 15 type guy, or a 13 to 15 pick type guy. In the first round, yeah, but not that high. You take the talent, right? You do not draft by need. You take the talent in the first round. You take the biggest talent, because if it doesn't work for you and he's still a stud, you now have trade power. You now have somebody you can trade if he's not the chip that you need. You never draft for position in the first round, especially in the top 15. Okay? Sorry. A little upset there because the Niners drafted Solomon Thomas that year, and he hasn't gotten on the field during all of this success. He's part of the reason that the Niners are doing well, because he's out and Eric Armstead is playing in his stead, if you will, and Solomon has been a complete bust. I mean, there's no other way of saying that. I apologize. I know he's had some rough personal things go on in his life, but at the end of the day, we're playing football here. He was a bust. Christian McCaffrey can't be stopped, and everything that I heard was that he's too small for the NFL. He's a running back and a wide receiver, but he's not either. He's not a pure running back. He's not a pure wide receiver, and there's no fit in the NFL for that type of player. Think of your job at best. Think of your Reggie Bushes, they kind of flame out. That's what we're thinking with him. I remember he's too small to run between tackles. So, blah, 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 talk. Good on you, McCaffrey, for proving everybody wrong and myself right. Yes, I do have it on podcast history to draft him, to saying that he would have a good year before he even had his first start as a rookie. So, good on you, Christian. You are balling out of control. Keep proving the critics wrong and let them jump on your bandwagon and pretend like they've been there all along. Jets at Eagles, guys. Oh, and the Panthers get another W in a close race. They're in a close race within their division. A lot of divisions are close. We're going to go over the division standings at the end because they're kind of interesting. But the Panthers D has found themselves, guys. And if they ride that defense and Christian McCaffrey, as long as Kyle Allen stays out of the way and makes plays at timely plays, I think they're going to be good. All right, guys, we got the Jets at Eagles. The Jets defense actually looks good. I mentioned this before. They're on the field all game. Hopefully that stops with the return of Sam Darnold. They need him back bad, and he's back. So let's see how that goes. Ravens at Steelers, guys. Mason Rudolph got knocked out. If you didn't see it, it looked bad. He was out, not moving for a while. Juju Smith-Schuster got emotional and was crying because he witnessed it, and it really looked bad, guys. Ryan Shazier was there. He was looking, it was a scary moment. But to top it off, the Steelers don't even have a cart that works. They bring out a cart. It doesn't work. I'm sorry. I don't know what stadium this was at, actually, so I'm not going to blame it on the Steelers. But they bring out a cart. It doesn't work. The poor guy has to get up and walk off the field, and you can see without his face mask as he repeats over and over, I'm all right, I'm all right, I'm right. And they're like, no, buddy, we're getting you into the locker room. You need to be checked out. I've been there before, Mason. I totally understand. I hope you get better, buddy. You were starting to play a lot better. Devlin Hodges is the starter there. So yes, I did write it down for myself, guys. He comes in and they actually almost won the game, which would have been really embarrassing for the Ravens, but they didn't win it. The Ravens did. Whenever you go into overtime against the Ravens, they have the advantage. I promise you that. Their kicker is a little-known guy by the name of Justin Tucker, the most accurate kicker in NFL history, or in the NFL right now, and I think within NFL history. They have the advantage automatically because of that. So don't go in overtime against the Ravens if you want to win. The Ravens bounced back after an embarrassing loss to the Browns, but they still didn't look that good, did they? A win is a win within your division. Lamar Jackson, like I mentioned before, has thrown 5 interceptions in his last 2 games. He threw 0 in his first 3. His passing yardage has decreased in every game this year as well. Vikings at Giants, guys. Wayne Gallman gets injured, and the Giants are just limited at the skill position, plain and simple. Daniel Jones actually looks like a legitimate quarterback in the NFL, and I think they need to move forward with him, and they will. but they need to get Saquon Barkley back, and then they need to give this guy some receiving options because he really doesn't have any. So it's a tough assignment for the kid. I think he looks good. I think he's doing well. I give him props. Vikings, Adam Thielen went on to a podcast. I mentioned this story earlier, but if you didn't hear it, Adam Thielen went on a podcast. He asked for an apology from Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins acquiesced and apologized to him. He then force-fed him all game, which turned out good for the pair and the Vikings as Thielen went off, caught everything in his direction, even close coverage. Kirk Cousins was still trying to feed the ball to him, and it worked out. He was catching everything. He scored a few touchdowns, and the Vikings get the win. So, in my opinion, when a receiver calls you out publicly and says, hey, I need an apology from this guy, for whatever reason, and you acquiesce, you're kind of a bitch. Personally, I would have gone up to Thielen and said, hey, man, look, if you got a problem, come talk to me. Talk to me man to man, and we'll figure it out. I apologize if I offended you or did something wrong in any way, and we could discuss that, but don't air out our laundry on a podcast. Just come to me and talk to me. Unless he already did that, I don't know the full story, so I don't want to judge Thielen too harshly, but I will judge Kirk Cousins because he's lost me money too many times. All right, guys, we got the Bears at the Raiders. Look, I think the Raiders have a simple formula for winning, and that's jump on the opposing team quickly, get the points on the board quickly, and then just out-coach him. And Gruden is proving that he can coach given limited offensive weaponry. He did it with Brad Johnson and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the way that he did that was leaning on a great defense or a good defense, a great defense with Tampa, a good defense, an unexpectedly good defense in Oakland, and then creative play calling and subpar offensive players that can, scheme it out and get it done. And that's what he's doing, guys. You name me 2 awesome offensive skill players on the Raiders. I give you Josh Jacobs, but Derek Carr is not a great quarterback. Yeah, he might as well be called Derek Cousins. They're very similar. They're not that great. Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, I mean, these guys are good, but they're not great. So Gruden's getting it done. I've said here many times on the podcast, I like Gruden. I think he's a great coach. And look, he's proven that he can still coach. So I don't know if you pay him $100 million, but the Raiders make all kinds of crazy decisions. They got their revenge on not revenge, but Khalil Mack didn't get any revenge on the Raiders. They got the best of him. He had, I think, 3 tackles and 1 fumble recovery, which he didn't cause. So yeah, I think the Raiders are playing much better than I personally expected. Now, Chase Daniels threw some timely turnovers that you just can't do if you want to try to win in the National Football League. Last week I was saying, are the Bears actually better with Chase Daniels? No, they're not, because I don't think Trubisky makes those turnovers. He maybe doesn't win you games, but I don't know if he loses games like that for you, right? So yeah, we'll see what Gruden can do when he's got a good defense like this. I got to give props to that Raider defense. Is playing way better than I thought, and a lot of analysts thought that they would play. They're playing lights out, and I think Gruden knows how to lean on a good defense. I think he's proven that. All right, Bills at Tennessee, guys. The Bills get a big W. Tennessee drops a pretty big loss. It's a big W for the Bills on the road. Josh Allen returns. He plays okay, but that's a tough Tennessee Titan defense. So to get it done in any form on the road like that, it's a victory. Cairo Santos misses 4 field goals. That is unacceptable as a field goal kicker, dude. That's got to be at your lowest there. You got to feel like dirt as a kicker that misses that many field goals. That's 12 points. So, I'm sorry. That's 16 points that he left off the board. So, they could have won that game. And then finally, guys, the Browns at the Niners. Like I said, I give you a little special take on this. I was at the game. The energy was amazing. There was a buzz in the atmosphere all game. There was a feeling at the stadium that I haven't felt ever at Levi's Stadium. I was correct when I said it would be the biggest game thus far in Levi's history. They haven't had a winning team in there since the Harbaugh era. Now, that was only 5 years ago, but as soon as Harbaugh's team got in there, they went 8-8, guys. They didn't play that well. And, you had Jed York and the ownership kind of calling out Harbaugh on the Jumbotron after games and stuff. So it was a disaster and a dumpster fire from the very first year in that stadium. So you got to imagine the Niners came into this game 3-0, not having a record like that in a long time. Big game against the team that's supposed to be really good this year, the Cleveland Browns. They've got all this offensive talent. Last time OBJ was in the stadium, he torched the San Francisco 49ers. So a lot of things going on here, guys. There was a buzz in that stadium. I didn't hear boo from Brown fans at all. Not a word from them. They didn't really have much to cheer from. The Niners jumped on them early. They're averaging over 200 yards per game rushing. That's amazing for the San Francisco 49ers. They continue to be one of the only two teams with a team defense ranked in the top 5 for both offense and defense. Pats being the other. Props to the Niners. I mean, they really do look good. And in my opinion, there's only 2 undefeated teams left. It's not an opinion, this is fact. It's the Pats and the Niners. And the Niners have had the tougher schedule of the 2, believe it or not. I'm not really sure why, but that's fact. So I give the Niners a lot of props. It's unfortunate they had to lose Juszczyk and McGlinchey to win this game. McGlinchey was playing great. Juszczyk is a key piece for the 49ers, and he was playing fantastic. I don't see a replacement on the Niners for Juszczyk. I don't see a replacement on the Niners for McGlinchey. They had to sign a new guy, a new lineman, just to have on the sidelines as they bring another sub lineman in. It's going to be real tough against that Aaron Donald-led Los Angeles Rams defense. That's my alarm in the background going off to get my son to his basketball practice, guys. I've got to go. Oh, in other news, the Cardinals beat the Bengals. And if you listened last week, you knew that was going to happen. I told you that would happen here on the podcast. And then the Cardinals beat the Bengals, and the Broncos beat the Chargers. Saw the Cardinals beating the Bengals, did not see the Broncos beating the Chargers. All right, guys. Oh, and to go over this, current first-place teams. To me, it's very surprising in the NFC. It's not so surprising in the AFC. In the AFC, you got the Pats, Chiefs, Ravens, Texans. All teams that we figured before the year would be pretty good. In the NFC, here are your first-place teams. Cowboys, 49ers, Packers, Saints, So it's interesting, guys. And then all the we're only in week 6, right? So everybody else is pretty close. 2 and 3, 3 and 2, something like that. But I thought that was fairly interesting. This early in the season, you've got teams like the Niners, Packers, Saints without Drew Brees, and Texans kind of sneaking in there too, all as first place teams, and that's pretty cool. So, all right, guys, that is it for the podcast. As always, thank you for listening, you beautiful, beautiful listeners.